All right, guys. So in this video, we're going to talk about what an option is, what an option contract is, what that whole language and lingo is, and more importantly, why they belong in your portfolio. And so more importantly, at the end of this segment, you're going to understand the basics of options, some of the important ways you can use the options in your overall portfolio. And when I mean overall portfolio, I mean you might have some stocks, you might have some bonds, you might have some CDs or some real estate investment trusts and all that good stuff. Options don't have to be mutually exclusive from that. They can work really, really well together, and we'll see some of the ways they can do that in this presentation. We'll also learn why you don't need to be afraid of all the technological jargon and all the crazy terminology that sometimes comes along with options trading. You know, it's a very kind of high level thinking, the stuff that we're learning here together. So there's going to be some terminology that's new to you, but there's no reason for you to be afraid of it as you're learning. So you're probably thinking a few of these questions in your head right now, or you've thought them along your journey to get here today. You've probably thought, why should we even trade options in the first place, right? You've also thought, aren't options kind of complicated and easy to lose money and super risky and speculative and all that stuff? You've probably heard that before as well. And in certain cases, that is absolutely true. You've also probably heard, isn't there a lot of jargon involved in options trading? A lot of things that would turn off kind of the normal folks, the working class, you don't want to work too hard outside of your day job. That's your day job. This should be a way for you to grow your wealth and become more successful, more profitable over time. But what I'm here to tell you is that you'll have no reason to worry. This is all going to be okay. This is just part of the process. In anything, thinking about learning a foreign language, you don't start all the way at the end. You have to start at the beginning. You have to kind of understand the building blocks of the language, how it all works together. And as you cement each building block on top of each other, it becomes easier and easier to learn and advance. So we're going to start from the beginning, and this really is the beginning of the whole setup of what an option is and why to trade it. And as we go through this, it'll get easier in time. Every new concept you learn will become easier to understand than the last concept that you've already learned. Because like your investment portfolio itself, your stocks have compound interest. Every year, you're learning more, and it's accelerating in how it's earning. Same way with this and with really anything that you put your mind to, there's compound interest in how you learn. And we're going to go through some of that here today. So the first thing we need to cover before we even talk about what an option is, I'd like to cover why you should care. Why trade options? Why are we here in the first place? And thank you for being here. So unlike stocks, which have a very singular focus in your portfolio, options can be used for many different purposes. Stocks, you want them to go up and you want them to grow. But in options, you could trade them for that same explosive growth. You could be shooting from the hip and buying call options and hoping that a stock triples overnight. It's not the right way to go. I don't recommend option one. Option two is you can go for more of a consistent growth strategy, more of a small incremental income streams coming in from your options trades, which is the way that I personally trade and recommend trading. You can use it in a third way, where it's simply there to hedge and provide protection against positions that you already have. Maybe you have a big 401k or a big IRA that's fully invested in stocks, and you're a little bit nervous, but you look around at the bonds option there and what bonds are yielding, and you decide, is there any other way to hedge my portfolio? That's a great place to introduce options into that portfolio. And also, diversification, we all know is important, right? You ask any financial advisor, anybody in the stock market, and they're going to tell you that it's good to diversify. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. And the nice thing is that with options, you can create as much or as little diversification as you want. You can have a diversified portfolio entirely comprised of options. You could have a portfolio of stocks, bonds, REITs, and options. Or you could have a portfolio without options at all, but as you'll get to learn, that's not a very good idea, in my opinion. So yeah, like I said, you can use options instead of stocks, or you can use them with stocks. All right, so let's move on and talk about some other reasons. So another reason to trade options is that unlike stocks, options can profit in many different scenarios, many different ways. So right now, you know that when a stock goes up, you make money. When the stock goes down, you lose money, right? Well, the same can be true with options, where when the option goes up, when the stock goes up, the option makes money. But also, you can devise strategies where when the stock goes down, you actually make money as well, which is pretty exciting. And even better than shorting stocks, there's some benefits in trading the options instead of doing the stocks themselves. And the most nuanced, kind of the hardest method to understand about stock trading and options trading is that you can devise strategies, many of which I use in my own portfolio, that make money regardless of where the stock goes. Whether the stock goes up a little, down a little, or kind of just peters out and stays stagnant for the next few weeks or so, you can profit in that way as well. And those are called neutral strategies. And some of the last reasons why I like to trade options and why I really think it belongs in any smart investor's portfolio is that unlike stocks, you can create your own expectations of profit. You can decide how profitable you want to be. If you want to have a 70% chance of profit, 80% chance of profit, or anything in between that. You can control your probability of profit. You can also control the maximum risk you want to take. So maybe you have a small portfolio and you just don't have the money to buy a share of Apple or a share of Tesla or one of the big stocks like Berkshire Hathaway. But with options, you have the ability to create a position, create a strategy that trades and controls Tesla and Berkshire Hathaway and Priceline, all these massive stocks. But you can do it with only taking a little bit of risk, only $300, $400, $500 of risk, and you can still control the same number of shares. I mean, there's a lot of power in that, and with great power comes great responsibility, right? We all know that quote. But it's good to know that you have the ability there. And you can also control the level of volatility in your portfolio at any given time. Whether you want a big swings up and down or smaller swings with a more steady upward potential, you have that flexibility in options. And you can also control how long you trade a position for. You don't need to anticipate holding a position for a year or 2 years. You can trade at a weekly level, at a monthly level, at every 60 days, and you can kind of keep your own cadence, whatever works for you. All right, so down to the kind of the soup and nuts. What is an option contract? And an option contract, this is kind of the base definition. We're going to break it down with an example or two here. But an option contract is an agreement, a contract, between two people that gives the owner of the contract the right to buy or sell a stock at a specific price and time. Now, that's a really wordy definition, and I know it's not the easiest to understand at first, but there's a couple key points in that. One is it's a contract. So when you trade an option back and forth, you don't actually own the stock. You don't trade the stock itself. You're trading the right to a stock. Next thing to kind of keep in mind is that the options contracts, they trade on their own marketplace. The options market and the stock market are different things. They're heavily dependent on each other, but they're separate entities altogether. And then you'll also see here, you've got a lot of different things here. So buy or sell, specific price and time. All these are characteristics of options contracts. And what's nice is that every option contract has the same key components. So once you understand this kind of crazy definition, every option contract is going to be the same. So let's go ahead and dive into some of that right now. So what's in the option contract? So one of the key components, you can't have an option contract without having an underlying. That is what is being bought or sold as a part of that contract. So it could be Apple, the S&P, anything you can trade options with is the underlying. The type of contract is what is the agreement you're making with the other party. Is it to put or call? And we'll go through what those are in a little bit later. But basically, there's only two types of options there, a put or a call, and there's only two ways of trading it, to buy it or to sell it. So really, you're down to only 4 combinations of ways of trading options, which should make you feel pretty good because it's not like you have this massive amount of information to learn. It's really only 4 combinations, but with those 4 combinations, there's infinite ways to use them, which is really where it gets creative, kind of exciting, and a long-term thing that you can always learn and grow with. The third part of the options contract is the strike price, and that's the price at which the option can be redeemed for. So like I said, we're all trading contracts here, and you have to know what the makeup of the contract is, and it's important to have a set price at which the contract can be executed on. And that one's going to be a little bit confusing right now, so when we get into the platform and start showing you option contracts set up, it'll make much more sense as we go. The fourth aspect is the expiration date, and that is just how long the contract is valid for. So unlike stocks, you can't buy an option and just hold it forever. You can't hold it for 10 years if you want to. Every contract has a start date and an end date. And lastly is the price of the contract, and that's how much the owner pays for that right to the option. So here you'll see there's actually two prices when it comes to an option contract. There's the strike price and there's the option contract price. And these are, it's going to be one of those things that with repetition, it'll make a lot of sense, but in the beginning, it can be a little confusing. So in the next section here, we're going to talk about what the difference between the strike price and the option price is. The last aspect of a contract is the size. How many contracts are being traded? And in this case, and in every case with a stock option market, one contract controls 100 shares of the stock. So let's go through an example here because we're kind of blasting through this pretty quickly and there's a lot here. I want to make it very clear on the slide. So in this example, I'm going to read off how the options contract reads if you're in your options brokerage platform, and then we'll go through each section of it here. So read out, we're going to sell one Apple July 20th, 2018, call 205 at 89 cents. Sounds like gibbery gook. It's just doesn't make any sense, right? So let's break this down step by step. So sold, that's the first word, and that means that you're the seller of the option contract. Remember what I said, there's calls and puts and there's buyers and sellers. So here it's identifying that you are a seller. You're going to sell one, so a contract size of one, you're selling one contract of Apple. So the underlying here is Apple stock. July 20th, 2018 is the expiration date. So this contract will expire July 20th. Absolutely. It's a call. So like we said, there's calls, puts, buyers, sellers. Your call, so you're selling a call option at 205. That's the strike price. So you're selling a call option that is in the money or at the money at 205. And we'll cover what that means a little bit later, but that's basically the executable price of that option contract. And then 89 cents is the last little bit, and that's the price of the option contract itself. So here, since we are the seller of this option, we're going to receive 89 cents or $89 because this is 100 contracts for giving away the right to that call option. Okay? Seem a little complicated? I know. It is a little complicated. But like anything that's worthwhile in this world, it takes effort to really go after it and learn those things that are worth pursuing. And a couple little words of wisdom here is that while there's a lot to learn with options trading, the language becomes second nature over time. And it really doesn't take as long as you might think it will. With just a few weeks of practice and study, I'm not going to guarantee because you really have to put in the work yourself, but I was speaking it fluently and I didn't even think about what I was saying. I could read the brokerage platform, I could see what was going on, and I knew the implications about it. And if you stay at this consistently for a few weeks as well, stick around, whether in my Facebook group or on the email list or just kind of checking out the YouTube channel, the more you expose yourself to this information, the easier it will become for you. The key point here is to make sure you don't let the language barrier prevent you from making progress. Study it, move forward, stay engaged, but just don't let it slow you down because this is a lifelong pursuit and it could be the secret to your financial future and to your family's freedom and your freedom from the cubicle if that's what your goal is here. But it just takes that consistent effort over time. So we'll wrap up a little bit here. What the bottom line is, what we learned in this section is we learned why we should even want to trade options. We learned about their flexibility, their ability to be a growth potential, a hedge potential, just a diversifier in our portfolio overall, and also a very engaging tool to grow our wealth. We learned the basics of what an option contract is. We probably left more questions than we left answers, but we'll follow up to answer all those questions in time. But we learned that it's basically just a contract to buy or sell a stock at a specific price. That's all it is. That's all it boils down to. We also learned the key parts of the options contract, the 6 key parts, which is the underlying, the contract type, the expiration date, the options price, the strike price, the contract size. It's a lot, isn't it? So those 6 key parts, while each one is extremely important to understand, once you understand the concepts, the nomenclature, it's all the same with every future options contract. And finally, we learned, and I hope I impressed upon you, take this journey slow and enjoy it. This is something that we're going to learn over the course of our lifetime. You never retire from the markets. Your money is always invested. So take an active understanding, an active passion and interest in knowing how to grow it, how to excel in this world, and take control of your own financial future. So I hope this was helpful today, guys. I hope this kind of format is helpful for you. If you want to leave any feedback about what questions you'd like me to cover as well, or any questions about this segment I can answer, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And I look forward to connecting with you next time. Have a great one, guys.